I was sitting on my bed at 2 a.m., scrolling mindlessly through my phone, when Marcus walked in without knocking. We'd been roommates for 3 years at that point, long enough that privacy had become more of a suggestion than a rule. He looked exhausted, his shoulders sagging under the weight of whatever day he'd just survived. He sat down on the edge of my bed without saying anything, and we just existed in that comfortable silence that only happens between people who know each other too well. Marcus worked in sales. Big corporate job, the kind where you're constantly chasing targets and dodging office politics. I was a freelance graphic designer, which meant I had the kind of flexibility he envied and the financial instability he pitied. We were different in almost every way, but somehow we balanced each other out. "I'm thinking about quitting," he said suddenly, breaking the silence. I looked up from my phone. This wasn't the first time he'd said this, so I made a non-committal sound and waited for him to continue. He always continued. "No, I mean it this time," he said. "I'm done." I walked into that office today and realized I've spent the last 7 years becoming someone I don't even recognize. Every morning I wake up and think about calling in sick. Every night I lie awake wondering if this is just it. Is this my whole life? I'd heard variations of this speech before, but something was different in his voice this time. There was a finality to it, a desperation that cut through his usually composed exterior. Marcus was the type of person who had it all figured out, or at least, he'd always pretended to. Watching him unravel felt like watching the sky crack. "So what are you going to do?" I asked. He rubbed his face hard, the kind of gesture that suggested he'd been doing this for hours, maybe days. "That's the thing. I have no idea. I have a mortgage. I have bills. I have responsibilities. I can't just walk away. But I also can't keep doing this." I understood the feeling, even though our circumstances were different. As a freelancer, I had moments of complete financial terror, months where the work dried up, and I wondered if I'd made a massive mistake by choosing this life. But at least when I was terrified doing something I loved. "You know what you could do?" I said, and I was only half joking. "Just change everything." He laughed bitterly. "Sure, let me just magic myself into a different career, a different life, a different person. Easy." We talked for another hour, going in circles the way you do when you're exhausted and sad and running out of time before sleep. Eventually, he left, and I went back to scrolling through social media, feeling the weight of his unhappiness pressing down on me even after he'd gone. 3 days later, I was at my desk working on a logo design when Marcus came home early. It was 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. He was still wearing his work clothes, and his expression was strange, something between panic and exhilaration. "I did it," he said. "Did what?" I asked, though I already knew. "I quit." My stomach dropped. "You what?" "I walked in today and quit. Just walked right into my manager's office and said I was done. Effective immediately." I should have been shocked, but somehow I wasn't. I'd seen this coming like a car that's been speeding toward a wall for miles. What I was shocked by was the calmness in his eyes. Even though his hands were shaking, even though he was clearly terrified, there was something peaceful in his face. "Marcus, what the hell are you going to do?" I asked. "You have a mortgage." He sat down in my desk chair and spun it around to face me. "Okay, so here's the thing," he said. "I've been thinking about it for weeks now, and I realized something. I've spent my entire adult life making decisions based on what I thought I was supposed to do, what society said I should do, what would look good on paper, and none of it made me happy, not even a little bit." I waited for him to continue, sensing that he hadn't gotten to the real point yet. "So I looked at my finances," he said. "Really looked at them. I have enough saved to cover my mortgage for 18 months without working. I have parents who love me and would help if I really needed it. And, I realized, the only thing actually holding me back wasn't money or responsibility. It was fear." He leaned forward. "And then you said something the other night. You probably don't even remember it, but it stuck with me." "What did I say?" I asked, genuinely trying to remember. He smiled. "You said, just change everything. I felt something shift inside my chest. Those were the 4 words. Not profound on their surface, but somehow they'd cracked something open in him. I'd been looking for permission, he continued, waiting for the right moment, the perfect plan, some sign from the universe. But you just said it so simply, like it was possible, like it wasn't crazy. And I realized that waiting for perfect conditions was the real insanity. Perfect conditions don't exist. You just have to jump. Over the next few months, I watched Marcus figure it out. He didn't have some grand master plan. He took some online courses in UX design, something he'd always been curious about. He started freelancing, building a portfolio piece by piece. He picked up some contract work through a recruiter who found him on LinkedIn. It was messy and uncertain, and sometimes he panicked, but he was happier than I'd ever seen him. 8 months after he quit, he landed a full-time position at a startup doing exactly what he wanted to do: problem-solving, creative thinking, building products that actually mattered. The salary wasn't what he'd made before, but he didn't care. He'd stopped measuring his worth in 6-figure numbers. But the real thing that changed wasn't just Marcus's life. It was mine too. Watching him take that leap, watching him build something new out of nothing, watching him prove that you don't need to have it all. Figured out to start, it broke. Something open in me too. I realized I'd been playing it safe with my freelance work, taking projects that paid the bills but slowly suffocating my creativity. I was terrified of going after bigger dreams because I didn't have a guarantee of success. 6 months after Marcus quit his job, I started my own design studio. Not alone. I brought on 2 other designers I'd been working with. We're still small, still figuring it out, still have moments of complete panic about whether we'll make it. But we're building something real, something that matters. I think about that night a lot, how 4 simple words, just change everything, somehow unlocked something in both of us. Not because the words were particularly wise or eloquent, but because sometimes you don't need a perfectly crafted motivational speech. Sometimes you just need someone to look you in the eye and say, the thing that's been hovering at the edge of your consciousness, the thing you're too afraid to say out loud, change doesn't require permission. It doesn't require perfect conditions or a master plan or enough money in the bank. It requires a moment of clarity, where you realize that staying the same costs more than trying something different. It requires the courage to be uncertain. It requires faith that you'll figure it out as you go, because spoiler alert, everyone does. Marcus and I still live together, though we're looking for a bigger place now. Sometimes I catch him in the kitchen before work, and he's smiling, actually smiling. And I think about how a different person could have been sitting on my bed that night. And maybe Marcus would have never said anything, and maybe we'd both still be slowly dying in the lives we thought we were supposed to live. But he did say something, and I did respond. And 4 simple words changed the trajectory of both our lives. That's the thing about moments. You never know which ones are going to matter until they do.
I hope this story made you cry. If this story touched your heart, so like and subscribe. Thank for watching this video. I will see you next video.